Hello everybody, welcome back to another iRacing video. So today is my first ever IMSA full endurance race. This is a 45-minute race. I think it is classified as a sprint race, but we are here in the Dallara P217. The LMP2 car has been making an overtake on the right there. But I am going to address what is most likely the title and thumbnail of this video. This was straight up a race from hell. I did not think I was going to survive this race at all, and you will see very shortly why that is the case. This is one of my very first endurance races that I've done. I did maybe an hour or so of practice in this car. I've driven this track many times before, so I know the layout and everything like that. I know where the braking points are, and I was doing 129 lows in practice, so maybe like a 129.3, 129.5, but just for whatever reason in the race trim or something to do with the setup or the ambient temperature of the track, I don't know, it was much slower for me on track. I could not replicate my low 129s, so I was, to say the least, not incredibly competitive in this race, but you'll see as we go through this video how that ends up shaping out for me, because this was this race just had everything. It just had absolutely everything, and I thought I was dead for sure. I thought there was no way that I was going to make it through this race without getting crashed out. And you can see here is one of our strong culprits of why I firmly believe that this LMDH in front of us, you know, I understand I'm trying to be as fair as I can when I say this. I understand everyone has the right to purchase the cars. Everyone has the right to drive. And you can see, though, right here, as he locks up, he goes straight on. You can see his safety rating is a 1.3. You can see his I rating is a 1,000, which is tremendously low. And there's really no other way to put it other than this individual should not be operating this machinery. As you can see, he almost runs me off the track. Keep in mind, I'm in a lower class car than he is, and I'm almost going faster than he is on track, which is, it just should not be happening. And you can see he's off yet once again, and just very little regard for his surroundings, and he could not keep this car in a straight line, and he definitely was not suited for this type of race car. And so that's all I'll say with that. I won't elaborate on that anymore, but you will see many incidents from this driver as we go through this race. And somehow right there I get a slowdown penalty, and I'm not entirely sure, but you can see he goes straight on, so we finally have some room to breathe for a bit, and I thought that was it. All right, I'm not gonna have to worry about him anymore. He's off, and I'll be able to continue. But as you can see, just like that, not great racecraft, he just goes right back in front of me. And yeah, I was just losing so much time, and I was getting really frustrated with this, but I was just like, you know what? He's probably going to crash out anyways, so I'll just let him sit in front of me until he crashes out or whatever, and I'll just, you know, take the time loss now, and hopefully we can come up with a different strategy plan throughout this race to maybe gain that back later on in the race. So, yeah. Not the greatest driver in the world. That's all right, though. At least I'm level-headed about it. During the race, I wasn't freaking out. You can see me in the seat there. I'm pretty calm. And you can see we almost have another massive incident right there. Just very oblivious driving to the others around him. And, yeah, I don't know. Maybe iRacing should have something like, maybe you even need to have a certain I rating level as well to drive certain cars. If his safety rating is a 1.3, maybe you should have at least 1,500 I rating to drive the top level car, because I just felt like this driver didn't even have the license verification to be driving a car like this. I felt like he wouldn't even be able to drive a GT3 around this track. So, yeah, that was definitely something absolutely absurd, and made the beginning experience of this race truly a race from hell. And so now we're going to go to the point of, will I actually be able to make it around this driver? Because that's what I was questioning myself. I was like, okay, I am losing so much time to the people in front of me. I've already lost 5 seconds to drivers that I know I can keep up with. So how am I going to manage to find my way around him? And I thought this was going to be it right here. I thought he was going to crash out this GT3. by an absolute miracle, that GT3 avoids him, and we're able to get through that in one piece. So I'm like, okay, let's kind of settle down here. Let's wait for that big moment as we have somebody on their side over there. Not sure what happened. He was raging in the chat about it. We eventually make our way up to some GT3s, which allows some space for me to finally just like breathe and get away from this LMDH. But you can see that I do have Peter behind me really attacking. So I need to kind of keep my pace and keep moving forward and just kind of keep the race moving a little bit quicker. And you can see he's off again up there. And so I knew, okay, this is a very dangerous part of this race. This guy trying to overtake this GT3. So they're either going to crash or he's going to go off, and I don't know what's going to happen. But then I have a very interesting moment here, and you'll see what plays out. And I just, I don't know. That's just a weird one. As a GT3 driver, or as a driver in a lower class, I was always taught in endurance racing that you are supposed to yield to the drivers behind you by sticking to the racing line, like this Porsche does, for example, right here. That was a perfect example of how you let a faster class car through. But that GT3 driver, I'm sure, was worried about the LMDH. He didn't see me, and it was kind of bad judgment by me. I just braked really, really late. I didn't do a great job at that. But you can see right here, this is how it's done. You let the GT3 through on the corner, you find where the gap is, and let them stick to their line, and then you go around after them. You never want to, like, leave a lower class car, like, guessing where you're going to go. You should make it very, very obvious that you're going to overtake them. And that Merc, which I think there's a GT3 off there, and I think David had something to do with that. Yeah, so when you're overtaking these GT3s, you just have to be very obvious with what you're doing, and I just don't think I did the best job of that when overtaking that Merc, and I just really thought he was going to stick to his racing line on the outside, and I was trying to go inside, but he kind of just sat in the middle of the track, and he didn't really know where to go. So if you're ever driving a GT3 in an endurance race, I highly recommend make it very obvious where you're making your racing line, and let the faster cars choose their overtaking position. You don't want to be the one like choosing where they're going to overtake, if that makes sense. But we're just making our way through some GT3s yet again. Just a very, very, very chaotic start, and I had no idea what I was even doing, to be honest with you. This was my first like long endurance race where I was multi-class racing, and so this was kind of just all new to me, and I was kind of just figuring it out as I went. And then you can see we have another spin yet again. I don't know at this point how he didn't have 17 incident points and was disqualified. By an absolute miracle, he didn't, though. Anyways, we catch up to some GT3s. I'll stop talking about it. You guys can see it for yourself here. We catch up to some GT3s. You can see I'm actually sitting P4 right now, which is kind of surprising. I really thought I was going to be like miles off the pace in this. So we have some more guys off in front of us. Big clog up. And there it is. That's the incident I was talking about. I knew the inevitable was coming, and I knew he was going to fall behind. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. And there it was. It happened right there. And when I saw that, I was just like, thank God that that is over with. I just wanted that to be done so bad. I did not want to have that car in front of me because I just knew some sort of accident was going to happen and he was going to take somebody out of a race. And so I was just like, thank God that that is over with. Then we eventually just make our way through some more GT3s, and I started thinking about, okay, now it's time to box and time to think about how I'm going to play out this strategy, because I didn't really know what the strategy for this race was. To be honest with you, I actually had no idea. So I started thinking, as we have P5 overtake us. So this was a battle for P4. Forget what I was saying about the pit stops. We'll come back to that at a later date. But here's going to be a really, really good battle. And I just get caught up at a bad spot with the traffic, and I'm able to make my way through here. But you can see that just lost me about a second, which was really, really crucial. And so I'm kind of just hoping once he catches up to this R8 in front of us, that'll close that gap a little bit, and then maybe I can catch up again. But yeah, Charles was very, very, very fast, and so I knew that there probably wasn't much of a chance that I was going to be able to catch him. You can see by the lap times that we're doing, 31.0 and 29.2. That is a magnificent difference. So I just tried to follow his lines and his track path and all that to see if I could just make it through. And then so behind me, you can see in my mirror, there was an LMDH, and I go to let the LMDH through, but he doesn't really commit to it, and then he commits to it right there. So then I completely lost the draft of Andrew or Charles in front of me, whoever it was. I don't even know who it was. And that basically ended that battle, and I was no longer in that fight. But you can see we're actually sitting P4 yet again here, so somehow we lost another driver. I don't really know what happened or how I ended up in P4. I have a little moment there, and then you can see those guys box. So that's a very, very important part of this race. So that was just about, I would say, halfway through, maybe a little bit longer. And so that allowed me to plan my strategy, and I decided to box 30 minutes in. So we have 15 minutes of running at the end of this, and so I'm going to go basically box late, and then I'm going to do a full attack for the last 15 minutes here, and hopefully this works out. But you can see I actually get jumped in the pit lane, so I don't even remember this guy pitting with me. I didn't remember him behind me, and somehow he ended up in front of me out of the pits. I don't really know how that happened. And I also had quite a long pit stop as well. I didn't realize that the team was doing optional repairs. I didn't even know that I had damage on the car, but I guess I did, as we have another spinner right here. And I don't know if we gain a position out of that. I don't think we do, but you can see we're actually sitting in P4 yet again, and we have Peter in front of us. So I was all sorts of screwed up on the positions and the time gaps and all that, because I don't have the Race Labs overlay with me in VR. I just have the iRacing one, and it's tucked away in the corner, so I didn't actually know what position I was at this point. I just knew that if there was an LMP2 in front of me, it was probably for position because of the way that the race has panned out. So that's why I saw this car in front of me, and I was just like, okay, this is probably a battle for P4 or P5 or something, so I'm just gonna go for it. And you can see we actually have a really, really good battle here. So I end up catching up, and you can see these are very, very similar lap times that we're putting in, just a 10th off of each other. So I knew I had a chance because me and Peter have been kind of battling all day long here in this race. And so we have a really, really intense battle here. You can see I am flat out on these laps. I am just doing everything I can to make up the incredible time losses that we had at the beginning of the race, sitting behind that very rapid and unpredictable LMDH is the word I will use for that. I guess rapid was actually the wrong choice of words there. He was just very sporadic. I think that's what I was going for. And I lost so much time. I think I honestly could have been battling for maybe P4 or P3 in this race had I not been stuck behind him and done a little bit more practice and kind of narrowed down those lap times a little bit. But you can see my lap times really aren't that great this race, doing low 30s, which is not the best. You really should be in that 129, 128 target range. And then we have someone coming out of the pits here, which is going to play a big factor in this battle because that is an LMDH, and so I'm going to have to yield to that, and I knew that. So I was like, well, I'm kind of too far to fight for this position. I'm a 10th away, and he's going to catch up to me, or excuse me, half a second away, 5/10. And so I just said, you know what? I'm not going to risk an accident. And I lifted off here to actually let the LMDH through, but he hesitated super, super long. And so I was like, oh, no, what is he doing here? And that allowed Peter in front of me to get a massive, massive time gap. So that was kind of a mistake on my part. I really thought that the BMW was going to read my window that I left open for him, but he didn't, unfortunately. It's just kind of part of endurance racing. I don't blame him for the way that this race has gone and all the incidents that have happened. I don't know how many people started this race, but I can sure as hell tell you not that many finished it. So it was just one of those days on iRacing where it was an absolute bloodbath here at this track. It was just so many disconnections and accidents and incidents, and somehow I only got, I think, maybe 8 incident points out of this race and gained safety rating out of it. So I'll take that as a win because I thought there was zero chance I was gaining any I rating or any safety rating out of this race. But we managed to pull through. But you can see we caught up back to Peter again, and we're in the final about 5 minutes of this race. So I knew this is a very, very pivotal point of the race. This is when I have to absolutely make this move. So now it's going to come down to when am I actually going to make this move here. And so that is why I'm kind of lining myself up now, and I'm really seeing where his mistakes are and where I'm faster. And I just realized that I'm kind of just faster all around the track, which is a little bit of a stupid thing to say, and I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean that it seemed like every corner I was maybe like a tenth faster, and I had a little bit later braking, and so I just had to line up where my attack was going to be. And then you can see I have a big moment here on the exit of that chicane, and I use the side draft from this Ferrari to kind of help pull me through. And I get a good run coming out of turns 1 and 2 here, and we're nice and late on the brakes and easy on the throttle here, and we get a very, very great exit out of that. And now we're in the tow, and I thought we were going to have a Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher moment. I think is those two F1 cars that split on the straight, and then you can see I make one of my best overtakes ever, honestly. I absolutely love that move. That was a very, very difficult move to make because I had zero clue where that GT3 car was going. And that's why my steering wheel was kind of all over the place, because I literally thought that those two were going to split, and we were going to do that Hakkinen-Schumacher overtake where we're both on the left and the right, and the car's in the middle. But unfortunately, it didn't play out that way. But still, one of the best overtakes of my iRacing career by far, I think. And I was super, super proud of that one because that was a difficult one. And a crucial moment in the race, too, because you can see we only had 4 minutes left. So that was a massive battle for position at the end of the race. And we ended up getting that done. So yeah, super proud of that move. Now we're in the final stages of the race. There really isn't much that goes on at the end of this race, but I'll walk you through some of the GT3 overtakes and stuff like that. But yeah, just an absolutely mental race from the beginning. I really just had no idea how this was going to pan out, and I didn't do the best job at navigating through it, but we at least made it to the end. We have some more overtakes on the GT3s here. The Audi R8 letting us through nicely. I have to say the GT3s, very respectful throughout this race. I didn't have any issues with the GT3s besides that Mercedes at the beginning. But I take that incident more as my fault. I just don't think that I really navigated around that Mercedes the best that I could have, which is, you know, that's my fault. That happens during races sometimes. You just have bad judgment. And I have to say that this VR headset was very, very hot. I felt like I was actually in a race car because I was sweating so much. And so we kind of check it up the inside here, and I believe this is our white flag lap, if I'm not mistaken. This next clip is going to be our white flag lap, so that'll be it. So we overtake this Audi R8 GT3, and that was the last of our overtakes. So that is going to be the end of our race. And yeah, just an absolutely wild, wild race. A lot that went on there, a lot to unpack, and I don't know how on earth we survived that. I thought we were dead for sure. But that is going to be our race. I could not believe that we managed to finish that after all that happened. So at the end of all of that, I gained about 50 I rating. I think it was like 48 or something like that. Yeah, I see it on there on the screen, 49. So that's a win for me. I'll take that any day of the week. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on that race and the drivers, and yeah, just more about yeah, what went on there and my incidents, and if I could have navigated them better, and the other drivers, and the obvious of what went on at the beginning of the race. But yeah, that was just a wild, wild race, but I'm happy with the result. For my first ever endurance multi-class race, I would say that was a success, and we made it to the end and managed to survive. So we finished that one, I think P4, that's what Race Labs says. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's where we finished. So I have no idea, to be honest with you. You guys would have seen as I crossed the finish line. But yeah, what a race. I don't know how many of these I'm going to do in the future on this particular combination, because this was a combination from hell in my opinion. But yeah, I'd like to try it again at some point. But that is going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff, and I will catch you guys in the next one.